Hi, this is Elizabeth with Callie's Clips and Crochet Creations. Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple wrap bracelet. This is a fun project to use for scrap yarns with buttons and notions you have on hand. I'm using it as some Christmas gift ideas. It'll also make great holiday, any holiday, Valentine, birthday. It's just a fun, quick project, and it's great for kids and adults alike. Also, if you're a beginner, could be a really great project just to practice chaining evenly and learning how to slip stitch, since those are the only two stitches used. Gauge is not necessarily important either, which is sometimes frustrating when you're getting started. So let's get started and see what we need for this project. And I bet you probably already have all of it at home, so that makes it fun too. Here's one that I made. I used, I'm trying to remember the name of the yarn. It is Hobby Lobby's Yarn Bee. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name. I'll put it below. Don't worry. This isn't the same one, but this is just a regular acrylic baby yarn. It's nice and thin, but it has a nice consistency to it. I think it works really great to make a soft bracelet. And I used it, not that colorway, but it's a little bit darker colorway, and I love how the colors intermingle and mesh and just make a fun bracelet. So all you need is a simple button, and you don't even have to weave any ends in. I'm going to show you a fun little trick just to finish it off with a braid. It just adds a little extra special fun to that. Yarn, you can really use any yarn you want. I do recommend maybe like not necessarily a sport weight, but at least a 3 or maybe a DK weight. I don't know what this was given to me, but this is about the size. This is cotton, and I do recommend using cotton. I think it will last and hold up longer. Cottons I recommend are afternoon cotton. I ordered this online from Joann's. This stuff is amazing. I've made a few projects with this on the blog. I love this stuff. And then at My Goals, I found Patton's Grace. This is also a mercerized cotton. I hope I said that right, which I think is wonderful. I just love the sheen it gives, which is what I made this one out of. This is just a silver mercerized cotton with a fun polka dot button, and then I added a little bead to the braid when I tied it off, because this is a gift for a niece of mine. And I borrowed this one. This is for her too, don't tell. So really you can use just about any scrap yarn. You could even use worsted weight. It's up to you what hook you want to use. What I specifically did use with this size 3, I used an E4 hook, 3.5 millimeter. You're going to need scissors. You're going to need a needle to, not to weave in ends, but to get the buttons threaded. And like I said, no weaving in ends. And then of course, just look through your button stash. If you're like me, I've got, okay, maybe you're not like me, but I have literally like 5 different containers of buttons. I just pulled out some fun ones for some ideas. I'm going to make one today since it's Christmas season, using a little Christmas button. But you know, flower buttons, heart buttons, glitter buttons, fun. Just whatever you want. It's so simple. Lots of fun. And then of course you're going to need a measuring tape for this, because there is not a specific amount of chains. I have an estimate, but again, it depends on the yarn and the hook that you're going to use. So let's get started. We're going to use white today. And if I can find the end of this, let's get this started. Okay. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and put our button on. That's the very first step. So go ahead and thread your needle, which this yarn, so we can get it through here. I got a small needle to make sure it would go through the button. There we go. So just thread your needle and then pull. This is our end here. You want to make sure you leave some room, because we're going to braid that at the end. It doesn't have to be super long, maybe six inches. And then just put your button on however you want. Pull that through. Go ahead and take that needle off. Now if you have a wide button opening, you may be able just to thread, try to stay on the paper here, you may just be able to thread it through, but when you're working with ones with like little holes in them, you're definitely going to want a needle. So let's pull that off. Okay, so just like I said, make sure you have a good 6 to 8 inches on there. So now we're threaded. Now make sure you guys can see this. I'll pull some of this yarn out here. And the very first thing you're going to do is just make a slip stitch. Not on this, just on this, not your hanging end, the longer end we're going to work with attached to the ball, and make a slip knot. I wrap mine around my finger like so, put my hook in, so you can see that, grab that, and just make a simple slip knot. Now this might be the hardest part because you want to pull this close, and then I am going to go ahead and make it as tight as possible to the button so we don't have like a big gap in there. And then I'm going to make my very first chain using both ends just to pull them tight so that one is not free. It'll get tighter at the end, so it's not a super big deal if it's not super tight, but just wrap both of those around and pull those both through like you're chaining, which you are. You're just chaining with both of those real quick. Now see, that's a little bit loose. If we kind of pull on these a little bit, we can tighten that down. See if we can focus back in there. See, now it's nice and tight. Now, go ahead and leave this extra end off to the side. We're not going to use that to the end, and you're just going to start chaining like usual. So, chain. I'm going to hold this. It's a little slippy. And it's a small hook. So take your time. Try not to twist the chain. And just make lots of chains. Now, I counted last night, and I think it came out to about 240 chains. Now you're thinking, how am I going to keep track of that? You're not. Don't keep track. Just sit down, pop in a show you like, and chain for maybe 10 minutes, unless you're super fast. So what I'm going to do is, you don't want to watch me chain all day. It'd take forever. So just try to keep it as even and not twisted as possible. And then you're going to chain until your piece measures about 54 inches. Try not to stretch out the bracelet because you do want it to have a little bit of stretch when you're measuring. Just kind of, when you're holding it, sometimes people will hold it and then pull it, which now the cotton's not going to have a lot of stretch, which is nice. It holds up better, but just, measure until it measures 54 inches. I will be right back. I'm going to go ahead and do my chains, and then I will show you how to finish up this fun bracelet project. Alright, so now we should have chained 54 inches at this point. Now I'm going to show you how to make the buttonhole. Now this will be different for everyone depending on the size of the button. What you're going to do, you're at the end of the chain here, and you're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Generally, it's about 5 to 8, just again depends on the button. And you're going to do a slip stitch in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th chain from the hook in this instance, and I'm going to see if that fits my button. This is going to make our buttonhole. See, a nice little buttonhole. What I like to do, since it's not specific for everyone, is I like to make, 4 or 5 slip stitches just to see how that's going to be. And then I take my button and see if that's going to fit. And in this case, it's too small. So this button is shaped a little funny, so that probably wasn't the best example. But if you want to use funny shaped buttons, here's a way to check how many chains. Okay, so we've determined that was not enough. So I'm going to give this 2 more. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the 7th chain from the hook. And we'll try that again. Again, we're just going to slip stitch a few stitches and see if that is the right size buttonhole. And in this case, I think it will be. You want it, you want to have to work to get it in there a little bit, but you don't want to work too hard. See, and that will hold fine. If there's a little bit of space, that's fine too. It should hold just perfectly with this kind of button. So again, you'll just check the size of your button. Like for instance, this button probably would need 1 more chain. It's a little bit bigger. This button's smaller, so I'd probably need just a chain less. This button would probably be just about right. So you're going to, again, let's start from the beginning. If I can find my yarn here. From the end of your chain here, you will skip however many you need to from the hook. In my case it was 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. and slip stitch. So now that you've done all those chains, you get to go back and slip stitch in every single one of them. Try not to do those too tight. It'll make your bracelet curve if you do it too tight, so just kind of have a loose hand. Try to keep your chain from twisting. That is like the hardest part, but working with cotton, it's pretty simple to make sure it's not twisting. You just don't want to twist and start working in like the backs of the chains. You really just want to work right along evenly, and you're going to do that all the way back to the button. So I'm going to finish slip stitching all the way back to the button, and then I will come back and show you how to finish off the bracelet with the braid at the end. Okay, now we've come down to slip stitching in our last few stitches, so I thought I'd join you for the last few here. And we're going to slip stitch all the way to the last, or the very first chain we made. So, and you may notice that first one we made had the double, so you should notice that. All right, so we've come all the way to the end of that. Now what we're going to do, again, go ahead and leave about 6 to 8 inches length on the end here. I'm just going to even that up there, boop, and cut that off. Now what you're going to need to do is cut 2 more strands of yarn that are, again, it needs to be about 12 inches. So, because we're going to be threading that through to braid. So I'm just lining this up with the length here, which I'm cutting off, but we'll just snip that. I'm not even going to measure. You can measure if you want to, if you like to be specific, but it's really not a big deal if it matches. So there's one, and then we're going to cut one more that's about that same length. There. These are probably like way too long, but so at this point you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ends to be able to braid. Go ahead, and if you haven't, I meant to, go ahead and pull that one through. So that's finished there. We're not knotting, we're not tying off anything, just pull it through, and then you're going to thread these through the buttonhole. Now depending on the button you use, it may be difficult. If you have like the thicker cotton, you may not be able to get it through. If you can't get 3 strands through, take your yarn and pull it apart. And you can just use maybe a thinner strand and use that to thread through to give you enough to braid. But in this case, my buttonhole is thick enough, so I'm just going to come in here and just thread that through. And this is a large buttonhole, so it's really not a big deal. So, and we'll measure that half and half. We'll even those out in a minute. So this is a little bit thicker than the baby yarn I used last night. And again, cotton's a little bit thicker, so it may be difficult to fit through. But here's one more. That's pulled through. Now what we're going to do is make sure those are all even and pulled to the same side here. Okay, this next part, I didn't really plan on how to show you. It may be difficult to show you because I generally will kind of hold this long old strand between my knees to braid it, and I'm not going to do that on camera. So I hope this doesn't get too jumpy. Let me move this away. I'm going to see if I can anchor this under my bag here that's holding all my goodies. Maybe I can show you. It may just not be able to be tight. I'll have to do it tighter later. But I literally hold it between my knees and braid it. You want to divide this into 3 sections to braid. Whatever braiding method you want, I'll just show you how I braid. And oh, it's not going to hold very tight. Okay, hold on. I don't want this to pull away. Okay, I think I've got this anchored down so I can show you braiding a little better. I'm going to show you the end. Okay. So you can make this braid as long or short as you want. And again, normally I would do this a lot tighter, but I don't want this to pull out since I don't have a third hand to hold that down. Let's see, how long did I make this braid? That's about 1, to 2 to 3 inches long. So if you're measuring, you can do that. So you've got all this excess. You can cut off what you don't need. I'm just going to cut that short. And move you back up so you can see a little better here. All right. And what you'll do, once those are all braided, if you want it like, where'd it go? Here it is. If you want to add a bead like this to the end of the braid before you tie it, you can try to thread it through this if you want. And what would be fun is you can use any kind of beads, glass beads or letter beads or anything fun, just to kind of give it a little heavy anchor. If not, you can just tie a knot in it. So we're here, just wrap it around your finger, tie a knot to the length you want. It's not like the perfect knot. I probably would have done that a little more perfectionist off camera. And if you want to make sure it's tight, I kind of like to pull on the ends of the strands a little. Just kind of make sure everything's there, and then you can trim it to the length you want, the little snipperoonie. And you have no ends to weave in, and you have a fun little extra on there. So let me wrap this on my wrist and I'll show you what it looks like. So on a child, oh, I can't remember, my daughter is 7. I can't remember how many times we wrapped it around her wrist, but it seemed like a bunch, but she loved it and it wasn't too tight. So just, it's not easy to show. Wrap that around. I want to say it wraps around about 6 to 7 times. I can measure my wrist too if you're curious. So there, ooh, sorry about that, little hair on there. And then this comes around, and you can adjust, obviously, the bracelet on your wrist. And that's really easy to get through there, so that's good not to make the buttonhole too tight. Pardon my dryer. So, and I probably would have put that on the other way, but let's see. So this one wrapped, and it's not tight. See, as you can see, there's plenty of room in there. It's not going to cut off any circulation. The cotton is super soft. So we got it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times around, and it has a little wrap. Like I said, if you put it on the other way, the button could be facing the other way, and then you've got a little extra. And if you don't like the extra, you can make it super short. You can tuck it in, whatever you prefer. But again, I love not weaving at an end or worrying about having that come undone. So there is our wrap bracelet here. Here's the colorful one. And again, there's another option for a bead added onto our braid. And again, see, these are not tight. There's plenty of room in there for you. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. I hope you'll make some of these. I think they make fabulous gifts. Another thing I thought of is teacher gifts, just something simple to add on there. And you know, you don't have to wear these as a bracelet. I've seen some to where you can wrap it, maybe as long as they are, around your neck carefully for a beautiful necklace. You can use beads. How you would do that is you would put the beads on before you make the bracelet, and you could just choose your placement of chaining or slip stitching around those as you go to lock them in place. There's so many possibilities. So this is just one simple way to make a fun chain bracelet. So there you go. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to leave constructive comments below. If you have any suggestions, you're always welcome. If you're looking for help on any patterns, you're welcome to ask those too, preferably mine, that I can help you with. We'd love to have you join us on other social media networks. We have Facebook and Instagram that we love to use. I'm Callie's Clips at both of those. And of course, you can always find this tutorial on the blog, written out as well. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.